Campaign 2018 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, Marshfield Clinic Health System, AARP Wisconsin, and Campaign 2018 partner Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel.
Aaron Camacho of Fountain City is the Green Party candidate in Senate District 31. The election is November 6th. Aaron, welcome to WisconsinEye.
Thanks for having me.
What unique set of issues or perspectives or goals do you bring as a Green Party candidate? You're not a D, you're not an R.
I'm non-establishment, right?
Okay.
I'm the only female candidate, and I am the only candidate of a multicultural background.
Yes, you're a member of the Potawatomi Nation?
Correct,
Okay.
Prairie Band Potawatomi specifically.
Thank you for the correction.
Not a problem. And I bring a diverse perspective to the table. I bring a perspective from the younger generation, but I'm still close enough to my parents' age to understand their needs, and I'm holistic in my viewpoint. I understand I'm running as a Green, but when we run as candidates, we're really running to represent everyone. And so I'm running with a perspective and intent to bring a sense of a united Wisconsin back to our legislature.
Top issue for you?
Top issue.
Which one?
It's hard to say a top issue because so many issues are intersectional and they all kind of connect with one another, right? But in our district specifically, you'll see access to government, our education, environment, healthcare, infrastructure, and in particular, our Wisconsin family farms are my top issues, and you'll see that on my website.
Let's talk about healthcare. How can we protect and expand healthcare in rural areas like the 31st?
Well, you'll see in our district that many of our community members have to travel, if not 40 minutes, close to an hour to access a hospital. We have clinics dispersed in between, but we're seeing even our first responders are not getting the support that they need to be able to service our communities. A lot of our first responder units are volunteer, and they're covering a large area of space within our district. And so what we really need to do is bolster what we already have. We can see that we're losing population, so that means we're losing people going into the healthcare profession, and we need to make our community as attractive to the healthcare industry as possible while maintaining an equitable environment for our citizens.
Does state government have an obligation to help recruit and retain doctors, nurses, and other medical professionals?
Yes, I think that is very much part of a proactive outlook from our government to attract healthcare professionals. If we're not taking care of our health within our communities, we're not taking care of the future.
State government and Delta Dental have a plan that subsidizes dental clinics in some underserved areas. Should that be a priority in the next Medicaid budget?
Well, you'll see when it comes to dental health, that can impact the entire body. So we need to prioritize all types of health care, not just the basic or what we come to know as general practitioners, right? Because our teeth, just like our feet, are part of our foundation.
There's an impasse in the Capitol, as you know, over how to pay for highways, bridges, and maintenance.
Yes.
If it were up to you, how would we pay for our highway system?
Well, again, it's an intersectional issue. You see within the state of Wisconsin, our budget for infrastructure oftentimes is tapped into to bolster other areas of our economy. Not to use a hot button term, but Foxconn is one of those issues that comes up that takes away from our rural communities. So when it comes down to the impasse, what we need to ensure we're doing is making sure that our decisions are equitable, not just for our urban communities, but our rural communities, because our roads are the lifeline of every one of our citizens.
State government then shouldn't be offering Foxconn those tax breaks and tax incentives then?
Correct.
You oppose that?
Or imposing levy limits, because we'll see at a local level, especially in my town where I live, you'll see that our town chairperson almost has his hands tied behind his back. We have some of the worst bridges in Buffalo County where I live, and in our district we're struggling with the rural roads. But when our townships don't have the local control necessary to make sure that our citizens have safe and accessible roadways, there needs to be a different approach. If you look at what urban communities need and what rural communities need, there are some similarities, but there's definitely differences because of the diversity amongst communities.
So you would not ease levy limits, you would get rid of them entirely?
Well, I think that would have to be a conversation that would have to take place amongst legislature. I'm not a big fan of extremism, so I'm sure that there is a compromise somewhere in the middle.
Let's go back to funding of highways. Could you vote to raise the gas tax or the registration fee that you and I pay to register our vehicles? And there's discussion in the Capitol on tolling.
Yes.
Your position on those three?
Well, Wisconsin's legacy has been wonderful roads, right? And we've done that without tolls in the past. So I'm confident that we can find a way to continue or bolster our roads without imposing tolls. I think a gas tax is something to consider. However, the people that are going to be impacted by the gas tax the most is the average daily worker, right? And can they afford that? But what I do think we can address is some of those other fees that we take part in as citizens, like our registration. Car registration should be more equitable, and I use that term a lot, but it's very fitting for the work that we do. If you have an H2 vehicle, right, you shouldn't be paying the same registration fee as somebody who has a hybrid vehicle or a vehicle from the 90s or 80s. There's different impacts within our environment, and that needs to be taken into context when considering registration fees going into the future.
Yeah, on your website, you stress the need for environmental protections.
Yes.
What do you consider to be the biggest risk to our environment here in Wisconsin?
Our water.
Water.
Yes, our water. The second is our air quality. You'll see in our district, not only do we have agriculture, not only do we have urban businesses, but we also have the frac sand industry. All of them impact our water quality, all of them impact our air quality, so we need to make sure within the administration that we have currently at the federal level that our state is making the necessary measures to protect our citizens, not just for the next 10 years, but the next 50 to 100. And at the rate we're going, we're not ensuring that our great-grandchildren have a quality life, quality water, or quality air to survive in.
Do you want to more strictly regulate Wisconsin's frac sand industry, or do you want to shut it down?
So that's hard. If you look at the frac sand industry that we've seen boom in the last few years, that sand specifically is used to enhance the hydraulic fracturing industry that we've seen in the Bakken, Alberta tar sand, so the tar sand fields. That increases the pipelines going through our communities exponentially, and we're seeing foreign companies, similar to Foxconn, wanting to expand their infrastructure projects, particularly oil pipelines crossing our state. So not only are we risking our rural communities here in District 31, right, with just frac sand mining as it is, but we're also risking our water supply because we are downstream from where these pipelines cross our state. So it's hard to say that we need to ban the mines completely, because I do understand we have an economy to support. But regulating them in a manner that is safer for our communities is important to me. Currently, they're regulated like a open gravel pit mine. And you can visibly see the difference between an open gravel pit mine and a frac sand mine. The particulate is different. In a frac sand mine, it's fine particulate, similar to asbestos. They need to be regulated differently. And that's all I'm bringing to the table, is an equitable approach to protecting our community and our economy, which supports our daily lives.
Wisconsin is spending up to $100 million in school safety grants. Is that enough, or do we need to change gun laws, Erin?
That's a good question. I am a supporter of our constitutional rights, including the Second Amendment. I find that when we look at the increase in our budgets within our education for security, I understand the need to keep our children safe. They are our future. But we have to look at the gun laws that are already in place. Are we holding people accountable to what we've already legislated? Are the repercussions enough to ensure that people think twice about taking part in certain behaviors? Are we locking our guns up enough to ensure that those who may do harm to our community do not have access to them? I think that there are different things that we can consider than, again, going to those extreme points of our political dialogue when it comes to gun control. I'm a supporter of hunters. We have the Run and Got a Gun and Rod Fishing Club just a little bit away from where I live. And I don't think that we need to hinder the citizens' rights in order to protect our community. I think it's more about education and the standards that we impose in terms of protecting our community. And really, it's about repercussions. We're not seeing enough deterring people from participating in these violent acts.
The current state budget boosted state spending on our K-12 public schools. Do we need a similar major increase in the next state budget? How well funded are our public schools?
I would say our public schools are hurting. Our education in Wisconsin has been our legacy. Right? People send their kids to college here because we're known for our education, and anything good from our communities happens from the local level to the global level. So if we have a strong K through 12, we're going to have a strong UW system as well. To shortchange our children and our teachers within the education system is shortchanging our future. Our kids are going to lead us, and if we do not invest in them, we're not investing in our future.
The voucher program, the choice program, has expanded, started Milwaukee to Racine, now statewide. Should it expand further? What's your position?
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay. Well, I just wondered, would you shut it down entirely, or just in Milwaukee, or what?
Well, if you look at the voucher system, it takes tax dollars, right, and reallocates them to public schools once the voucher is implemented. So that's taking from the public school system. Public tax dollars should not be supporting private entities, and so that is why I do not think that the voucher system should continue in Wisconsin. Again, it's not equitable. If we want a different approach, we should consider different avenues, but the voucher system isn't working, and we're seeing rural as well as urban schools within the public institutions suffer for it.
A big issue in the next state budget is whether we need a new state prison. The prisons in, two of our prisons were built in the 1800s. Mm-hmm. Do we need a new state prison?
Do we need a new state prison? I think that when we look at our buildings, we can ensure that with the proper maintenance, our buildings can meet the needs of our community. The reason why I hesitate on building new prisons is because the prison industrial complex is one of the plagues that impacts our community. It doesn't matter if you live in Wisconsin or anywhere else in the country. The amount of money, that tax dollars specifically, that goes into supporting the prison industrial complex is absurd. We should be looking at a different approach to crime within our communities. There needs to be a more rehabilitative aspect or component to our criminal law. And I am not sold on the idea that building new prisons will bring any benefit to our communities.
UW system budget, should we continue the tuition freeze on resident undergrad students?
If we are to maintain our competitive nature with neighboring states, we must. If you look south in Illinois, they're looking at free public state schools. And they're considering it heavily, and it might even happen within the next couple years. In Minnesota, they take part in reciprocity. So we need to also consider those aspects of tuition as well.
Let's go back to the Foxconn package of tax breaks and incentives. You don't support it?
I do not.
You do not think any businesses in the 31st district will be helped by it?
You know, we have a proposed facility in Eau Claire, but I think why I would not have voted for it is because we're giving a $4 billion tax break or tax incentive package to a foreign company. Our state leadership is saying Wisconsin is open for business. Why are we not as open for business to our local business owners as we are advertising to foreign companies? If we're not supporting our own locally, we're not going to have a sustainable outlook when it comes to our community, because the people who really care about our communities are going to be our local business owners, not the companies that are located halfway around the world. They're just here for a profit. Our local businesses want to build our communities and help everyone thrive together.
There was a plan floated in August to give Kimberly-Clark, a Wisconsin company, the same Foxconn tax breaks. Now, it wasn't acted on, but had you been in the Senate and there was a vote on that bill, how would you have voted?
That's another hard question, because how do you legislate equitably when you're picking and choosing which companies you're going to help, when we have long established Wisconsin companies that also need that assistance or support to stay within the state to ensure that they're also helping our communities thrive. That's a slippery slope, and I would honestly on the floor argued that we should never have given Foxconn this tax incentive. We need to be legislating more equitably so that our local communities aren't suffering.
Is it time to legalize either medical marijuana or recreational marijuana?
It is.
On both?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you legalize recreational and medical, not only will we be assisting our healthcare area, right? But we'll be also impacting that pipeline to prison system that we have. We'll also be reducing the amount of people being funneled into the prison industrial complex. We may not need that new prison if we reconsider our laws regarding marijuana, whether it be medical, like you said, or recreational.
And then final question. You're the Green Party candidate.
Yeah.
Do you want to contrast differences between you and the Republican and Democrats in the 31st?
Yeah, well, I think in the past, you know, that the Green Party has not been on the ballot in Wisconsin. And the differences between the Republican candidate and the Democrat candidate with myself is that we are the People's Party. We take no corporate donations. All of our donations that support our campaigns are from individuals like yourself and the viewers that are watching this. We advocate for equitable outcomes. We advocate that we hold true to our constitutions so that we can maintain our sovereignty not only as a state but as a nation. We also want to ensure that the pay gaps are addressed within our country. And in particular, we see the struggles in Wisconsin. I haven't heard a lot of our candidates in our district address that specifically, considering half of our district is male, half of it is female. Yet our female population are making 70 cents on the dollar compared to our male counterparts. We need somebody who's looking at our struggles and our successes within our community in a holistic manner. And with my background, knowing what it takes to come from childhood within poverty and overcome those obstacles and still reach an educational level within the higher education arena, I think that we need to look at our candidates' experience. I have a lot of real life experience. I might sound young, I might look young, but what I bring to the table is heart. And we need that in the People's House.
Thank you. Erin Camacho of Fountain City is the Green Party candidate in Senate District 31. The election is November 6th. Erin, thanks for talking to WisconsinEye.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Great.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, yeah, I'm all...
Campaign 2018 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, Marshfield Clinic Health System, AARP Wisconsin, and Campaign 2018 partner Milwaukee Journal Sentinel.